All right, so today I want to discuss several different ways that you can make money breeding ball pythons without actually selling hatchlings. There's quite a few ways you can do it, leveraging the internet, which is kind of interesting. As a matter of fact, when I started in ball pythons, I was actually, I'd buy a really expensive snake and I thought, oh, I could breed this to some females, make a whole bunch of expensive hatchlings, sell those hatchlings, and turn a profit. And that's kind of the allure of getting into breeding ball pythons. But come to find out, that is not the main way that you can actually do it. Some people kind of focus on that and they kind of generate whole warehouses of snakes, have really big operations and hire a whole bunch of employees, and that's not really the avenue that I wanted to go down when I got into ball pythons. So what I did is I actually started a YouTube channel. That is what you're watching right now, and I'm kind of going, as far as my YouTube channel, I say I'm doing it a little bit different than most people. I'm primarily going after the ad revenue, which is I'd say it's probably the long game as far as doing YouTube. And when you're doing ad revenue, when I first started out, I was producing videos every single day for about 6 months. And I got to the point where after 6 months, I got monetized. I made zero for 6 months. And then after 6 months, when I got monetized, I started making 80 cents a day. Let me tell you, you start really slow. You start at zero. And essentially when you finally get monetized, it's a really slow game and a really slow progression as far as just the ad revenue. And a lot of people jumping into YouTube, they kind of realize that after they post a few videos or a couple hundred videos and they're still not getting anywhere, and they're like, all right, I got to make money somehow on the internet to kind of help support my ball python breeding operation. And essentially what happens is you kind of transition over to some of these other sources of income. And I'd say probably one of the biggest ones that a lot of people go after is Amazon Associates, which is kind of interesting. I didn't know anything about this, and it's pretty amazing actually. I can actually go over to Amazon, I sign up for Amazon Associates, and then once I have an account, any product that is over on Amazon, I can actually make a custom link and put it underneath one of my videos. And when you actually go under my video and click on the link and you go over to Amazon and buy that product, I get a commission, and some of those commissions can be up to 10%, which is pretty awesome. I've actually seen people, it's kind of weird because depending on what revenue source you're going after, you kind of shift your focus of your whole operation. Some people go into the whole warehouses of breeding ball pythons. Some people go after just the merchandise on Amazon, and that is not really where I wanted to go. And you see a lot of these big YouTubers, they're like, oh yeah, you just got to push merchandise all the time. And essentially what that does is your channel almost becomes like, you almost become like a salesman, where every single video, you're like, you need to buy this, you need to buy this, hey, check out this flashlight, click on the link below, and you know what's going on. If you click the link and buy it, then the guy gets a commission. And you kind of go down this, it's almost like a spiral where you kind of are chasing the money, kind of changing your channel and your focus. And that's not really where I wanted to go. Although I would have made a lot more money at the beginning. Probably what I would have done if I would have started a YouTube channel at the beginning and kind of knew what I know now, I would probably have done a lot more kind of a gear review and product review and try to push a lot of that at the very beginning. But I don't really want to, kind of dilute my channel with a lot of that stuff in the content. So another way you can actually finance your operation is through Patreon. And I've seen a lot of people really making an incredible amount of money on Patreon. You see some of these big reptile YouTubers, you actually go over their Patreon, a lot of times they actually have it listed how much money they're making. Some of them are like, between $5,000 and $10,000 a month on Patreon. It's kind of crazy. And kind of the interesting thing is I think people get a little bit distracted on Patreon, because I've actually seen over on Patreon, some people have thousands of videos on their Patreon. They've been working it for years and building it and building it. And let me tell you, if you would take those 1,000 videos and put it on YouTube, at the beginning you're making almost nothing, but at the end you probably would be making more than $5,000 or $10,000 a month with thousands of videos over on YouTube. So it really depends what you're going after. And a lot of times on Patreon, it can be a lot of work, because a lot of times you're making merch, you're doing like freebies, and you're kind of interacting with the community, which is pretty cool. But after a while, it gets I've actually seen this where it gets really overwhelming. You get so many people and you're trying to do so many things that Patreon can be a full-time job, versus if you're going after the ad revenue like I am. The ad revenue is kind of interesting because you make a video once and you get paid for that video essentially the rest of your life, which is kind of interesting. It's almost like a little rental property. You put a video up on YouTube and it just keeps keeps generating income day after day, year after year, versus a lot of these other things where you're actually breeding snakes. It's a lot of work. You stop breeding snakes and you don't make any money. Or, you know, your Patreon, a lot of times, if you don't do anything on Patreon, sometimes you lose a lot of that support. And for me, I actually do Patreon, which is kind of interesting because I started Patreon and I was like, you know, I'm not really going to put anything on Patreon. If you want to support me financially, because, you know, I'm just starting out as a YouTuber, you can actually go over there and support me. And I really don't offer anything. Pretty much the only thing that I offer on Patreon is that if you go over there and even sign up for like $1 a month, I'll actually put your name on the end screen of my videos. And you'll actually see on the very end of all my videos, I have a whole list of all the Patreon supporters. And those are all my present and past Patreon supporters. Even you know, some people, they kind of give me $1 or $2 a month and they'll do it a couple months and then they'll stop, and I'll just keep their name on the end of every single video, which is kind of cool. And someone actually gave me like $50 a month for like several months. I couldn't believe that. That was pretty amazing. And I put them like up at the top. You know, I usually kind of arrange it to where the, you know, the higher givers are up at the top of the Patreon page, which is kind of cool. So in fact, if I get so many Patreons over there, I'm gonna have to switch to like a scrolling end screen or something like that, because I'm getting quite a few. So you can actually do that, which is kind of interesting. Patreon, I'd say you can make some money on Patreon, but I'd say in the traditional classic sense of Patreon, it can be a lot of work to kind of keep up with it. And another thing you can do, you can actually do sponsorships. And sponsorships, I don't know if I'd really go for that. Some people, I've actually seen some really big channels that have like millions of subscribers, and they'll do like one little sponsorship blurb in their video for like 30 seconds. They'll talk about a product or something, and some of those guys, they've actually said they'll make like $10,000 in 30 seconds just from talking about a product, which is kind of crazy once you get way up there. And usually with a sponsorship, I think you have to have like 500,000 subscribers or 1 million subscribers or something like that to even be kind of worthy of the sponsorship. And kind of the problem with that is, you know, typically on your YouTube videos, especially with me, I'm actually going after the ad revenue. So you see an ad at the beginning, an ad in the middle, an ad at the end. And to kind of come into my video and start talking about another product, it's almost like another ad that I'm talking about. And it just does not seem like something that I would like to do on my channel. So another way you can make money on YouTube is through merchandise, and merchandise is kind of interesting. You can actually directly link with Teespring. I'd say that's probably the #1 kind of a setup for merchandise, and it's kind of cool because you can go in there, and I actually have a little app on my phone, and I design, you know, little things like Chris and Bobby, and I put a little picture of us, and then we put it on like, you know, coffee cups and phone covers and stuff like that, and I'll bring it over to Teespring, and you can put it on a whole bunch of different merchandise, leggings, and a whole bunch of, they have all the kind of the default stuff, and you can choose all the colors over there, which is pretty powerful. And they actually take the Teespring merchandise, and I think underneath every video you have a little merchandise shelf. You can put like 20 different items over on your merchandise shelf, and you can actually promote that stuff over there. And every time you sell something, you get a pretty big commission. It's pretty good. I don't know what Bobby's doing here. Crazy snake going all over the place. But it's kind of interesting with the merchandise. I'd say probably my #1 source of income right now is YouTube ads. I probably make, you know, the most on my ads. Of course, I'm almost passing 900 videos, so I have a lot of videos driving a lot of ads. And probably my #2 is Patreon. You know, I make I'd say maybe about 150 a month on my Patreon. Not a whole lot, but it definitely adds up. And then probably the least amount is between my Amazon, kind of the Amazon merchandise. I'm thinking I'm making, as a matter of fact, I was making about $30 a month on the Amazon merchandise. It's about half now with the whole COVID-19. For some reason, all the advertisers are paying less, and it seems like over on Amazon they're paying less. And then as far as merchandise, I'm making maybe about the same, anywhere from, you know, 10 to $30 a month. But you add all those up, and it's pretty good, especially when you add it to the ad revenue at the point that I'm at now. So it's pretty good. And kind of the cool thing about the merchandise, I've actually heard kind of through the grapevine that if you actually pass 100,000 subscribers, YouTube will assign someone to help you on your channel to to design merchandise, which is pretty cool. And it gets to the point where, you know, I'm actually producing 2 videos a day. I really don't have time for anything else. I don't have time for, you know, Patreon or you know, designing merchandise. It was all I could do to design just the few little things I have. But it would be pretty cool for someone to come in and professionally design some really high-end merchandise that would be really cool, that a lot of people would want to buy, which is pretty awesome. So there's a lot of different ways you can do it. I've actually seen a lot of people just using YouTube as a tool to promote a lot of your, you know, the kind of the ball pythons that you're selling on your from your regular business. Matter of fact, I just posted my last video. You probably saw it was just yesterday. I actually posted, you know, I had 4 bamboo ball pythons for sale, and within 12 hours, less than 12 hours, they were all sold. So that is the power of advertising on YouTube to sell some of your merchandise, which is kind of interesting. And that's not really the focus of my channel. And my focus is to really make my channel kind of like an encyclopedia of ball pythons, where you can figure out, you know, all the genetics and the breeding and pretty much all the ins and outs of ball pythons. And lately I've been going through, it's kind of interesting, I've been going through all the morphs and the combinations and the genetics and everything. And let me tell you, I'm starting to run out of content. A lot of people, you know, once you hit about 1,000 videos, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll actually change the direction of their channel, which is kind of interesting. I'm trying to think of what direction I can go to kind of change things up once I, you know, kind of get to the higher level. And what I'm really waiting for is I'm waiting for my channel to really explode, where I'm making some really decent money on the ad revenue, and then I can really change things up and have some freedom to kind of go in a different direction. I'm thinking maybe, here's one idea, how about if I bought a Harley Davidson, traveled back and forth across the country, going to reptile shows and reptile stores. That would be pretty interesting. Review all the stores, meet all the people, and just kind of see, you know, the whole reptile community. I just travel. I don't know if I could do 2 videos a day doing something like that. Maybe a video every 2 or 3 days, but it'd be kind of interesting to kind of switch it up like that. And some people, you know, when they think about YouTube, they think about, all right, you know, I've been breeding ball pythons, and what I want to do is I want to expand what I'm doing. I've seen a lot of people do that, trying to expand on kind of what they're doing in their channel, instead of, you know, completely switching to something similar but a little bit different. So I don't know where this YouTube's going to take me. I'll definitely keep producing videos, and for now I'm just going to keep going through the grind until my channel explodes. That's kind of what I'm waiting for. And I'd say, you know, with YouTube, going after the ads and the long game, sometimes it can be a real risk. I've actually seen a lot of people where they'll produce, I've actually seen, as a matter of fact, I just looked at a channel, and they produced over 1,000 videos, and they weren't doing that well. And it's, let me tell you, sometimes it can be a gamble. You really have to have really good thumbnails, really good titles, really good content. That's kind of the key thing. You have to really keep studying YouTube to really figure out how to drive views on your channel without actually getting distracted. And that's kind of the thing. As a matter of fact, if you actually go to a lot of these guys that have channels, they're like, all right, this is how you do it. This is how you succeed on YouTube. What they'll actually tell you is to go over to YouTube and look for trending topics. And that could be another trap. You can actually do it. As a matter of fact, I could actually make a lot more money on YouTube if I was doing something completely different or going after trending topics. But the problem is that is not what I want to talk about. That's not what I want my channel to be about. I want my channel to kind of be an encyclopedia of ball python information. If I was going after trending topics, it would be completely different. As a matter of fact, if I was really going after just the YouTube revenue, just the ad revenue, what I would actually do is I would not do ball pythons. I would do probably financial stuff. That is like the #1 thing, you know, how to make money on your phone, searching Google or something like that. You know, all those, how to make money doing this and that on the internet. Those pay the most, because the advertisers, they pay the highest CPM, and you get the most views and the fastest growth. But you know, it's kind of interesting, because once you get into YouTube, you're like, all right, I can make a lot more money a lot faster. But what do you really want to do in the end? You want to what Bobby's doing here, Bobby. All right, so yeah, I think Bobby says that is it. That is the end of the video. There's a lot of things. I mean, you could just spend all day talking about YouTube. There's a lot of information and a lot of complexity once you get into YouTube. It's pretty amazing. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.